the man with the answers, Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Pastor Paul Begley, good to be here tonight. How do I sound?
Well, you sound good. I could use a little more volume out here for me, just personally, but Brock, how's it sound on the air? Mike, go ahead and say a few words.
Good to go, good to go.
Yep, we're great, Mike. Sounds great. Mike, great to have you tonight. How you doing?
Well, good to be here, Pastor Paul. Good to be here. Lots going on, huh?
Yeah, lots going on. I mean, where do you want to start? But we kind of looked at something that was happening. They're shutting down they took a hold of people's thermostats in Denver, Colorado. They just reached in, and now it was 90 degrees, and they said, I'm sorry, but we're controlling your thermostat. We're going to keep it at 78 or 79 degrees. And is this the beginning of this control of, are they going to do that this winter? Are they going to reach in? Is this something is this the beginning of what we're going to see not only in the United States but around the world? We're hearing that they're going to be freezing in the UK. They're already rationing water in California and putting little spigots on people's intake about the flow of the edge of the tip of a ballpoint pen. Can you imagine that trickling into your home? And that's all the water you can get. That just got to keep it running. And you know what I'm saying? This is what's going on, Mike. Are we getting ready to see food rationing to come to the world? Are we getting ready to see inflation, outrageous prices on fuel oil and a way to heat their homes? I mean, how much are they going to limit travel? I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to ask you this. Is this overreach? Is this designed? And how far are they going to go?
Is it designed? Sure it is. Sure it is.
Okay.
And if we were to stay under the current leadership, it would take this all the way. However, that's not going to be the case. That won't be the case. This current leadership is walking right into, well, you could say their own bear traps. That's what you could say. Through freedom, often through freedom, when any group, if they're not opposed, they're not balanced. And when they're not balanced, they always perform overreaching policies. And when that happens, the people begin to see what it really costs them, right? They see beyond the rhetoric. Once it hits home, they're not gonna want them in power anymore. And there are too many things that are starting to trickle down to the people. People are starting to notice. That's causing a big loss of support for the current leadership, folks in leadership in many countries.
Yeah, this is happening, Mike. It's not just the United States where we're seeing this overreach. And, everybody talks about Mar-a-Lago, but obviously these reaching into people's thermostats, hiring 87,000 new IRS agents to go after the American public, the hyperinflation we've been witnessing, they're raising the interest rates, the shortages on the shelves, the spam, the push for spam, the taking away of the meat, the limiting of goods and services. That's just America. But we're hearing that in Europe, it's going to be a cold, dark winter.
They're in bad shape.
Yeah.
They're in bad shape in Europe. Europe is in bad shape right now.
Everybody's blaming it on Putin, but this is bigger than Putin, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, you have these people all around the world. They have a lot of citizens right now. They are brainwashed, so to speak. They really are, and they are really overprotective of the earth, as though if somebody extracts oil, it's going to destroy the earth. That's not the case. But the USA, we were independent for a while. We're about to be independent again, but it's going to take some severe changes in order for that to take place. And I believe that under current leadership, they have, in just about every single country, things have gotten so far out of control that people will demand something different. Now, that sounds like a good thing, right? Unfortunately, I'm always reminded of the agenda of the man of perdition himself.
Okay.
People will like this guy. They're going to like this guy, right? Now, it was about 2009, 2010, 2011. A lot of people had a similar quote. They said that there was a person coming on the stage when the world had these these just incredible problems, nobody would be able to fix them. People would they would notice how bad the condition of the world would be, and then all of a sudden somebody would come on the scene and begin to solve these problems. Even in the Bible, they like this guy, right?
Yep.
They're fearful of him, but they like this guy. We sit at a place now where conditions are becoming almost, you can't rebound from what's happening right now. The money system, there's uncertainty in that, a lot of fear in that, a lot of fear in energy. There's a war over energy right now. People are no longer trusting one another through co-op banking. So you have a retract of many countries. They're putting their money back into their own countries again. Trade has taken a big hit. U.S. retailers. There are a lot of manufacturers in the USA right now who have, over the last, 8 months, they have applied to be a manufacturer. And so they're trying to switch our supply chain from China and other countries back to the USA for some of the smaller products, which is why probably people don't see certain items on the shelf, merchandise-wise, that they normally have around holidays and these special things that they have. But through all of this, the people are beginning to notice that whatever they're doing is not working.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want it. In Russia, the Russians don't want the war. Contrary to what's being propagandized on television, the average individual in Russia does not want the war. They don't see the justification behind the Ukrainian conflict. The Ukrainians, contrary to popular belief, the Ukrainians, there are many of them starting to speak out saying that they don't want it either. And that, but they were kind of, some of those who, now you're fighting people over there, yes, but they don't want it. And you have leadership who, for some reason, it's almost like they're wrapped up in their own minds, right? Because they faced no opposition. You get these, we have a Western-type leadership right now that empowered quite a few people, but without leadership, that doesn't work. Somebody has to be the guiding voice of sustainability around this world, and that's kind of lost. You know, we have a different administration right now, and there's one individual out there, right? Okay. Through her declaration of revenge, is causing the USA to lose footing in quite a few areas. It really is one person's agenda, revenge-wise, that has spawned a lot of discord, right? Because, you know, of all times, we need unification, certainly in the USA. The rest of the world will follow. And if people would take note, when the USA is divided, the rest of the world falls apart. And that's a true statement. And this is what we're seeing, right? Because we're not unified. But this one person, you know, the clock is ticking. I can tell you that right now. Some upsets are coming. The clock is ticking. But and we'll have some sort of a, time where we can get away from that, but we face some very difficult situations.
Do you think that the Republican Party is going to take back the House and the Senate, take control of that part of the government? Do you see that in the election or no?
I think the people, right? The people, they're beginning to suffer a little bit in ways they didn't expect to suffer, and I think through that suffering, they do not want governance to be a specific way. I do not think they're going to voice their opinion, but they're losing. Many people are starting to lose confidence in from what was so polarized a while ago is losing its steam. One misstep in prosecutions, which will take place, people ought to get themselves ready for that, because there are no limits to the lengths these guys will go. Prosecutions are coming. But that one misstep in those prosecutions, and the entire thing is going to fall apart. Their entire projection is going to fall apart. And the people will begin to demand different type of leadership. Now, I'll tell you something else. We're in a very different time because the populace is becoming empowered. They're not getting weak. They're becoming empowered. They're not necessarily Christians, right? But they are becoming empowered. And believe it or not, if you get enough of them like that, there's going to be a bigger problem, right? A much bigger problem, and then they're going to have to do something up there. But I really do believe, because of this country and the Christians in this country, that the Lord He did exactly what He has done historically, which is this: When people are at war with one another and they want something out of a leader, God gives them exactly what they want to let them know it's not going to work that way. And so, because if you think about this, Pastor Paul, we go, people who are Democratic, they say, give us a Democrat. They get a Democrat, but nothing is really solved. Then they do the same thing with Republicans.
Yeah.
The problem is nobody stays in office long enough to complete anything. Right? And then the next administration comes in and undoes the first. That's not progress. No. It's not progress at all. And so that's not working. You need some type of unification on the back end. I believe the Lord has shown us that our cries for a leader is not working. Right? A lot of Christians are catching on now. They're saying, well, Lord, just give us someone you pick the next one, right? We don't want to do it. You do it. You pick the next one and guide us or lead us. And that type of submission is important, because for a long time we were looking at people, not the Lord, but people, and that's a distraction for us. Satan is okay with it, right? He likes that kind of stuff, but
well, when you said earlier, you said that, and I believe it was Malachi Martin who said that when the world gets to the point that it has an insuperable problem, an impossible problem, that a man will rise and will have the answer. And that will qualify him in the eyes of the people globally, that this man maybe should be in charge of the world. And he must have great charisma. He must have superpower some way, something, because he is intellectually and even spiritually, or some type of an aura about him. We know he's going to be demonically charged, but he is, he'll speak like a lamb, but he'll act like a lamb, but he'll speak like a dragon. I think it says in Revelation. Do you feel that this hour of the rise of the Antichrist, do you feel that are we on the brink of it, or are there cascading events have to happen first?
Well, I do think there are certain things that must take place first, but I think we're on track. Right? Yeah. We're on track for that. Right now, people they're so polarized. I've never seen the world.
Yeah, you're right.
It's so polarized as they are right now. I mean, they're stubbornly polarized. And it's not like there's always some sort of subject that can really touch your flesh and get you angry these days, right? So these next steps are going to be quite critical. And with what the people have to face,
go ahead.
It's going to become worse, Pastor Paul. There are some things forming. They're not really talkative about it, but we have real problems. Yeah. And it's almost like people are directed towards this propaganda people are putting out, and the problems. For example, it's almost like nobody is talking about space right now, right? They talk about these new telescopes and everything, but they're not telling us about some of the dangers that are out there. They're not preparing the populace to make them aware of what could potentially happen to their homes, right? Especially in the wintertime, in certain areas of the U.S. and Africa and Europe. Moscow, they're going to be in trouble too, because they're like a big magnet towards falling debris. Mexico, places like that. The water is having superheated anomalies in the water in the North Atlantic right now. I know that Japan faces something, but we have a similar storm right now forming in the North Atlantic. A similar storm feeding off the same water temperatures, right? And it could, if it drifts south just a little, it's going to hit those superheated anomalies. So the water is very hot right below it. If it hits that, it's going to be supercharged. Then the entirety of the East Coast in Florida is going to be under a severe threat, because Florida's waters are incredibly hot around out there in that region. Incredibly hot. They've not been this hot. In the Gulf, that's a bad area. Right to the west of Mexico, there's another anomaly, another low pressure system that has formed that's feeding off some of the hotter waters right there at the equatorial plain belt, those water currents that are feeding up. And so we have some potential monsters forming. And that would be one of a few, because if this pattern continues, Japan's not going to be hit by that one. they're going to be hit by a few if this track continues. So
is Planet X, I mean, or the arrival of it, or the passing by of it, of our solar system, this binary system, are we going to see, and you're saying they're not talking about space right now, because we're talking about food. Not. We're talking about, do we have to eat Spam on Friday? You know, are we going to be able to heat our homes? And part of this is just propaganda, paranormal.
It is.
Paranormal, to make everybody afraid and huddle down, which only makes it worse. Really, as Christians, we should not live in the spirit of this fear. We really shouldn't. We really shouldn't. No. Because God will absolutely see us through if we trust Him. But my question to you is, are we deliberately seeing this panic on Earth to keep us from looking up to see what's coming at us? The meteorites that, you know, do you think that
it's working.
The fireballs and stuff?
It's working. We've had close approaches that nobody told us about. They boast about what they can see in space. They have these reports where they justify what they have sent into space and what good it's going to cause humanity. They're not telling anybody about or discussing the disruptions in the sun, right? We talked years ago that when these objects, this binary system gets close to our system again, it's going to start disrupting the sun. Well, the sun is clearly doing something it has not done before. Even NASA came out with a report, they finally publicized it, saying that between now and 2030, we're going to experience some of the worst times with the sun we've ever experienced before, right? We have peer-reviewed topics concerning that very thing. There are more objects and bodies that have been found inside of the heliosphere that are very threatening. They could disrupt certain bodies within our solar system. These objects are already in the solar system, and they're going to be peer-reviewed. They're going to be replicated.
Are you saying
they're going to be given out to?
You're saying there's more out there that they've not even been telling us about? That's
of course
coming our way.
Two specifically, which are quite they're quite massive, very massive, but they're inside of our system and they've never been discussed. And they're finally going to start discussing these two bodies. They're going to have no choice because people are going to begin to see some of the effects that these things are causing. They will even see those objects, right?
What?
They're going to be disruptions in our solar system by way of its some of the orbital patterns of the planets. Get ready for that to change, right? If people thought things were going to stay consistent like this, you know, that's just sorry for them. Things are going to change. The heavens have been held together, so to speak, kept in an order, right? There's no way randomly through celestial mechanics all these planets can maintain what they've been maintaining. That's impossible. So there's been intervention a lot. But if that's let go, right, planets are going to do some weird things. Forces are building up right now on Mercury for no reason whatsoever. Well, there is a reason, but probes are detecting anomalies coming from Mercury. It's only a matter of time before certain planets begin to skip their orbits. We're going to have a mess in our solar system yet again.
So the forces. So these are the part of that. Years ago, when you first brought to us about 8 years ago about the 5 waves of energy. I'm hearing you say that now, besides the binary system on the outskirts of our solar system, that there's 2 other huge objects that are going to come into play. And it's going to affect all of the planets that's in our solar system, knocking some of the planets off its orbital path, which that is going to then in turn affect all kinds of things: comets, asteroids, meteorites, radiation, different types of rays. The sun is exploding and melting. And Elon Musk came out this week, Mike, and said, look, the sun apocalypse is coming. The sun is going to eventually consume the earth.
He knows.
Yeah, he knows.
He knows. He has a photographic memory, and he sees classified reports, right? He gets classified briefings. Yeah. So he can remember everything on a piece of paper. Just think about that. So he didn't forget. He can recall that information, and he absolutely knows. He knows. But by way of the money they're giving him for contracts, and his task he has to perform for the U.S. and the world abroad. He doesn't say everything, but he's telling everybody in so many different ways that we are in trouble, and that trouble is not going away. It's not going away. People would deceive themselves to ever think that, oh, things are going to be just great. They're just going to calm down. It's even, I know people, they know about per the HARP system, per the array system, which these are can be weather modification systems, but they do very little in regards to the weather. But our weather phenomena is almost exactly like it is on Mars. We even have issues with Mars and certain windows to land craft on or to retrieve data from because of anomalies that are happening on Mars, because of wind patterns similar to Earth, right? Well, respectively, not exactly like Earth, but we have similar conditions because the sun, when the sun changes, so does everything it influences, right? So not only that, Venus is having the same issues. Jupiter is having the same issues. Now, all these planets are having these same issues as Earth, right? So that means something larger is affecting all of them, which is our sun. And our sun, in turn, is being affected by something external from itself. So here we are. We're getting closer to a time of massive disruption, massive chaos as far as celestial mechanics is concerned in objects in space. It's going to be undeniable.
So they can only play this game and hide it from us for so long. At some point, it's so undeniable, people are going to demand answers. And but will they already have us locked down, citizen containment?
I think personally, some of the heavier matters that we're dealing with right now, everybody subscribes to a food shortage, right? That's what I'm saying, subscribe, because in truth, there's no reason we should have a food shortage. There's just no reason. That's number one. Then we have all these energy concerns. So number two, there's no reason we should have energy concerns. No. None. There's no reason. All these wild ideas, it's almost like it's propagandized to draw people's attention to some sort of a conflictive matter on Earth, so they never look anywhere else, right? They're stuck. Yeah. When you start messing with a person's table, right, whether it be contrived or not, that's a serious matter because people have to feed their children. Okay, that causes issues. But people are focused on this, and they're also focused on those who propose to solve this. So that's all they're seeing right now, right? Yep. It's almost like the adage: if we had a 8.4 earthquake in the next 72 hours. Everybody would find out about they look at this earthquake, the oohs and ahs and the speculation and all this, that, and the other would come about, and all the experts would come and say what that means. But then about 2 weeks later, no one would talk about the earthquake. No. Right? No one. Why? Because we are so information hungry that when something happens, everybody focuses on the new thing. Yeah. Right? And it's almost like it charges people up to get that info. But then when it dies, they start drifting off looking at everything else again. Well, they know this. And so what they do is they keep people occupied with problem after problem. We talked one day, Pascal, right before Putin did what he did. Right. And I think I stated that when one incident no longer draws the attention of the populace, something happens nobody ever expected, right? And then here we have the Ukrainian war. Everybody started looking at the Ukrainian war, right? That held people's attention for a moment or two. Yeah. But if you think about it right now, it's not holding the attention of people. The attention of people is back on, they're back on the older topics now. And they kind of toggle back and forth despite, based on what happens. I'll tell you this. If everybody loses that attraction to this Ukrainian problem, if it starts going down too much, and they can track this through social media and the internet, AI is giving them an avenue that it's just unbelievable what AI is doing right now. But when people begin to not talk about the Ukraine enough, they're not polarized and divide and have arguments, and it does not create what they need it to create. Get ready for something else. It'll be just like clockwork. people's attention is going to be drawn to some type happening on the earth, contrived or not. These things will take place. The unbelievable will take place.
Yeah, we're going to come back to this this Planet X, this dark winter, this events on the earth. It's creating a lot of instability. But I want to reflect on something. You had a dream, of course, that there was someone in a coffin, and there was the stone steps. This week, of course, Mikhail Gorbachev, at the age of 91, passes away. He was the Russian leader that took down the wall. He tore down that wall like Reagan told him to, but Putin was right there, and he didn't like it. And we've seen Putin rise up, and he really isn't going to say anything negative about Gorbachev, but in his heart, but his actions and his policies are bringing Russia back to the old Mother Russia ways. And my question is, I'm not saying is Gorbachev the one in the coffin, because I don't think he is. But we have another person, the Queen of England, 70 years on the throne. Her death would stop the world, wouldn't it? And people would stop and say, now what? And because we don't know if Charles is going to take his place, or is it going to be William? And there's a lot of talk about the bloodline and all of that. Well, your thoughts? I mean, could the Queen be the individual that could be in the coffin? And is this coming?
This person's passing in the coffin is premature.
Okay.
It's premature. It's an upset. Okay. It's an upset. If the Queen were in a coffin, that's expected. She's been there for a long time, right? Yeah. Gorbachev, same thing. He's been there for a long time. This person, it's
unexpected death.
It's going to have some sort of. There's going to be speculation behind it, right? It's going to be an upset because it will change things, specifically in the USA. And that's one of the biggest things. Again, I've never seen that before. But it's going to be somebody of importance, but it will be unexpected. It'll be it's going to make a difference in people's minds. It's not going to be good.
It's somebody that was not supposed to die, maybe, and their death is going to be shocking. It's going to stop time, basically. Everything's going to come to a halt, and it's
going to cause a lot of hatred too. It's going to cause hatred because. It's just going to make a difference that way. It's not going to be good. It's going to make a difference. It's going to cause some hatred.
Have you had any more dreams on this?
No, not like that. No, that one still stands.
Has the Lord ever brought anything else to you about that dream? Any other?
Yes, He has around that event. I'll be honest with you. I don't like that. That one. I don't like that. I'll tell you why I don't like that one, because I don't like violence. No. But every day I see the potential rising within people. More and more things are happening around the world that are just, vile. They're just vile. More and more people are becoming vile in their what they do. And so it looks like the conditions that surround it, in that dream that surrounded that are happening. Even the stone steps, everything is starting to take. It's starting to go right in that direction, but that's going to be very upsetting also. That really sparked the hatred and violence of crowds, and nothing was the same after that. Nothing. The coffin just makes it worse. And these events cause a shift. According to what I saw, they cause a shift in governance itself. They cause an entire shift. And it's not that people will like it, right? Because I'll tell you something. Things will seem to stabilize for a small season, but people shouldn't be fooled. In that small season, hopefully they get their lives right. They really anchor themselves in their faith, because they will need everything the Lord has taught them through experience, through trials and tribulations. They're going to need everything. Everything's going to be required of them according to whatever the Lord gave them, because times will become quite trying. Now, as a Christian, I believe this. I believe that we'll see it, yes, because we see a lot of things. Some of the Christians who have been foretold that they're going to be in the middle of it, well, they're going to experience some things. Yeah. Everybody's not meant to be a martyr, though. I think people mix that up. If all the martyrs were told they were going to be a martyr, they were shown what they would have to go through, right? Some of the Christians out there today, they've had certain dreams or intuitions of what they have to go through. But God will always let them know, but everybody is not meant for that. then people are not careful, they're going to become fearful, like they're going to be instantly beheaded or something like that. It didn't work like that. It didn't work that way. Thousands of Christians are going to leave in the next 5 minutes, according to statistics and how people, pass away. They're just not going to be here. Tomorrow's not promised to any of us. But these times will come, we'll see them, and we got to be careful to stay the course in faith, because what we see is going to disturb us internally.
So this dream you received, and you've had other confirmations on it, follows the biblical narrative. And I know when God gives me a dream, and again, not every dream you have, folks, is specifically a dream from the Lord. It could be just you had too much on your mind when you went to bed, or maybe you had bad pizza. We all have had those. But when you get a dream from the Lord, when you get one and you know it's from God, you don't have to ask anybody, and you know it, right? And you wake up. And Mike, this is what you're feeling. This one right here, the stone steps, the coffin, the change of the atmosphere of the populace and the attitude and the reaction of people. But the thing is, it also is confirmed in the Bible. It's like, oh my, if that happens, that's what the Bible said would happen, And I've seen that before when God gives special revelation to individuals. When I mean by that, a dream like that magnitude is a unique revelation from God to you. But I think it was also given not only to you, but given to large amounts of people to hear. We've been talking about it some. I'm not going to ask you who was in the coffin. I just know that whoever it is or whatever it is, it's going to be shocking. That's what you're saying. And it's going to affect things. It's going to put different things in motion, which the Bible says that happens. That's going to happen in these end times. But the church still has to be victorious by not falling forever. You can't just fall for just because a wave goes one way, we don't have to go with it,
That's right.
And
That's right.
I'm afraid that Christians are going to take the bait. Are you concerned about Christians taking the bait?
I'm always concerned, because, you see it in small places now. For example, more policies are going to be shoved through, right? Through these policies. Yeah. It's going to strengthen. I guess you could say it's going to strengthen the communists in a weird way. I guess you could say that. And that's the only end result I see to that. And we all know that China is positioning itself to do what it must do. They are highly emboldened. They're not backing down. And in fact, they have positioned even more pieces today. It have made certain declarations and preparations that if a contingency is required of them, they're ready to act. We, on the other hand, have become we can't, it's almost like we're dropping the ball. I hate to say that. It's not good. Right? Yeah. It's not good for us to be in this position, but you have China, who's been emboldened. They are openly talking to Putin and Iran, right? You have Israel backed into a corner. You have Iraq, who is soon to change their alliances. You have Dubai, which is building these folks are building a fortress of fortresses, and they are compiling everything in that place. But Saudi Arabia, again, is in one of those positions where they're going to have to fight or fold. I personally do think that they're going to be absorbed by a different type of ideology, which could potentially come from Turkey or Iran, whichever one's winner. The Vatican is withdrawing its important assets from all over the world.
What's your thoughts on that? They
have to.
Why in the world?
They know what's coming. Before anything happens, right? Before any war, before anything ever happens, if you notice, the Vatican makes the move around the world, and then something breaks out. Nothing breaks out before the Vatican makes its trips around. He'll always have conversation, discussion, this, that, and the other. There are careful plans within plans with these leaders, but that's the way it operates. And the Vatican, for the Vatican to withdraw assets, people's assets, means he's going to protect those assets. Yes. Right. Yes. Which also, that's almost a dead giveaway that the Middle Eastern world is really rising. It's rising, Pastor Paul. Wow. Because that is the only element that is a true threat to the finances of the Vatican.
Really? Now, time out. So you're saying the rise of the Middle East, the power, the what I call this vortex of evil in the Middle East, is only thing that can cause the Vatican to withdraw, to pull back.
That's right.
That's interesting. Can you get into that and tell us why?
Well, I said, no, it's not China. It's not going to be China. It's not going to be Russia. It's not going to be any of those folks because of the world's protection, right? But the Middle East is an untamed element. The world cannot control the Middle East. And every single time anybody has ever tried, they have failed and failed miserably, right? So the Vatican is going to have to mediate between two types of Muslims here shortly because it is very polarized, right? In Iran, for example, there are protests that are happening in Iran. They can't even lock up the folks they want to lock up because of the protests that are happening in Iran.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a faith-type leadership, kind of like Babylon. Babylon, the Babylonian king, King Nebuchadnezzar, those kings of old, they not only ruled the kingdom, but they ruled the faith, just like Iran. Iran says, everybody can have their own religion, this, that, and the other, but make no mistake, there are people jailed because of what they believed in. But the Iranian people are rebelling against their governments. They want something else. And they're going to have to make a move pretty quick. They're loyalists. They're gaining strength from this. Their own army is ready to march on their own people, right? And this is happening in Iran. All the while, Europe is falling apart all by itself. The people are also protesting in Europe because they suspect they're going to face a terrible winter. People are hungry, being evicted right down Europe. Right down, the eviction rate is incredibly high. There are people on the streets in Europe. Thought I'd never see that, but they are. And so you have all these activities, right? The Vatican is going to safeguard the Vatican for the sake of those who belong to the church. They're not going to fall apart, but they will stand as mediators for the two who will have to work something out, and that comes from the Middle East. And the Middle East is rising. Wealth-wise, it's rising. This debacle in Russia has really enriched the Middle East beyond belief. They're not going to share the numbers, but the Middle East, the money count in the Middle East has it's gone way up there. I mean, way up there.
So what I'm hearing
you say, they can buy anything they want to buy.
Okay, so you made a statement earlier in the show. You said Israel has been backed in a corner, and the Vatican is pulling back, grabbing its resources and pulling itself back. And that's why so what I'm hearing you say, the Vatican, of course, represents the Christian world, and the nation of Israel would represent the Jewish world, or Judaism, Christianity, Judaism. So are you saying that the Middle East is the rise of the Islamic world? And we're already seeing, and that could become even more powerful. Not China. I keep hearing you say, not China,
right.
Not China. But watch what's happening in Dubai. Watch what's happening in Iran. Watch what happens to Saudi Arabia. In this battle between Shiites and Sunnis, is this a big part of the prophecy of the rise of the Antichrist and some of these things? Do you see that?
Yeah, you know what? These factions in the Middle East too, it's really broken down into about 4 or 5 different types because they have these subdivisions of their religion, but they've been absorbed, Pastor Paul. Half of them have been overrun already, and so it's being set into 2 sides of which the Vatican is highly aware. Right? That topic disturbs Rome. It does, and so they know they're going to have to mediate. Mm-hmm. Well, in the meanwhile, we have some pretty advanced weapons that have been moved into the Middle East that in my opinion should never be there. Right? Because if you get
why are we doing that for?
Well, through trade, through scientific advancement for the world, right? You're always going to have certain pieces of equipment that go all around the world. It has nothing to do with war, anything else, but those same components can be used for wartime, weaponry. Okay. And so with that type of those shipments going all over the place, here we have Iran this is their 6th year in development of things they should have never developed. I'll give it to you this way: their drone fleet, right,
Yeah.
almost it's almost unbeatable right now as far as drone fleets go. They have one of the most advanced drone fleets in the world. Iran, for crying out loud. How is that even close
That
to
doesn't
being?
even make sense.
You know,
How did they get it?
no, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So we have power shifts happening, right?
Yeah,
Since
yeah.
we have some severe power shifts. Things are going to be very upsetting. All of us are going to have to face the reality of what has really happened. Time is going to just, all these elements will show their heads as time continues. And it's not going to be that much time. So hopefully people are highly aware. And as I said before, the wintertime, Pascal, people can't move in the winter like they normally do in the summertime.
Right.
So anything, if a government really wanted to impose something upon the people, to make something stick, they would do it in the wintertime, right? Any policies that people wouldn't necessarily agree with, but they would make it a necessity, would happen during the times where people can't really get out, protest, and do all those things. That's going to be the wintertime, based on the weather patterns. All people have to think of is this. If in the summer, in your warmer climates, if the rain potential caused floods all over the place, what do they think is going to happen when it cools off? We're going to be, there are going to be places buried in ice. They already know this is coming, right?
Okay.
There are going to be casualties this winter. It's not going to be good, right? And no place is exempt because we have such extremes.
What's causing the casualties,
and how the weather is
Mike?
operating.
What's going to cause the casualties? Water, cold.
These geniuses talk to the power companies. The governments have talked to the power companies. The power companies have told them they cannot fulfill policy, right, based on their current infrastructure of the electrical grid. They can't do that.
Can't keep up.
They already have the power grid network. They already do this, right?
Yeah.
But here's the bad part. That network can easily be controlled by some sort of government overreach of a mandate of anything like power disruptions to save power.
Yeah.
Something silly like that. Saving power. Texas, hopefully they have their, hopefully they fixed what they did not fix last year, because they're going to be in worse conditions this year.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of people died.
If anybody lives in Texas, please take note that the winter is coming. And they may very well face the same problem they did last time.
Folks, Mike from around the world's with us tonight, and this is some very, very important information he's sharing with us. This cold, dark winter, we talked about this deadly dark winter. We talked about this last Thursday. We're talking about it some again tonight. We're talking about Overreach and how far will they go. Is part of the Overreach, Mike, because they know what's coming. They know that the Earth is going to be inundated with radiation, with meteors and fireballs, and maybe even a deep impact, that the sun is volatile and men are going to be scorched. All of this is in the Bible. They know they can't stop it. And so it seems like there's a wrestling match going on for resources all over the world, for oil, for uranium, for food, for farmland, for water. I mean, so they know it's coming. What do you anticipate this winter? Do you think we're going to see more people die this winter from more than one thing? I mean, is this going to be like a cascading events?
I think it'll be worse than last winter. I think that some people are going to be cut off. Obviously, they're not going to have the resources they need if something is not done in a hurry. They're certainly scaring people now with this ideology. But I think the weather is really going to cause some issues. I think they're not going to forecast it, because some of these storms are popping up in less than 2 hours, right? Unexpected weather phenomena. There are torrential, rainfall events that happened in the U.S. in the last 4 or 5 days. They really didn't understand how that can happen, right? But it did happen. So even in the Bible, Pastor Paul tells us that these same folks, they have an understanding of the Bible. They have an understanding of what God knows and what's written in prophecy and everything else, and they absolutely have a foolish heart concerning it, and they go against it because they've chosen allegiance to something else. They really have chosen allegiance to something else. They protect their little bloodlines, because in the rich society, they believe they are of the bloodline, the pure bloodline. This is what they say of Cain, which is of the devil. That's what they believe. And so they keep that bloodline pure. So they're Satanists at their heart is what they are. That's why they can laugh when people are starving. That's why they can sit up there and make policies they know it's going to kill people. That's why they feed pharmaceutical companies all these profits and lobby and fight to keep them, just making everything that's tearing our chemistry up, getting us hooked on everything where we can't even function right. They know exactly what they're doing, right? So, you know what? My advice is, we have that capacity to learn exactly what they're doing, so we need to offset that by knowing what we're doing and making sure that we are prepped and prepared for any contingency, not to go overboard with it, just be prepared for it, because they're going to try everything they can try. And remember, in the end, the fight is against those who believe in Jesus Christ. Amen. Period.
Mike, Florida's... there's some storms that are brewing off the coast of Africa. There's some storms that might be even trying to work their way into the Gulf of Mexico. There's some storms just popping up everywhere now. I think that in the next 15 days that the United States, whether it be in the Gulf of Mexico and working its way to the Gulf Coast, or be hitting from the East Coast or Florida or the Keys or somewhere, do you feel like in the next 15 days that there's a storm's going to come out of nowhere and could be a Cat 4, Cat 5, is because of the warmth of the water?
Oh yeah. That water is, there are so many surface temperature anomalies. It's just incredible. It's incredible. And again, the North Atlantic, there's a severe problem. There's a monster sitting out there in the North Atlantic right now. And if it dips to the south just a little, it will increase itself by a pretty large factors. And that's going to be something to deal with.
But isn't that one going out away from us, or do you feel like it could?
Well, it could curl.
Okay.
You have colder waters. You have colder waters about 50 miles above it. Now, what it's been doing is doing this little corkscrew movement. These storms look like they were going in one direction. They turned around and came back. And so it's very difficult to track. These warmer waters are swirling. Anomalies are forming. And if it feeds off some of the hotter water, it's going to be drawn closer to the south, overriding some of the low pressure systems that are lined up, on that equatorial plane, especially over there where Africa is. It will override the strength of those pressure systems coming from that area, because the water temperatures are almost exactly alike, right? So they can actually move around and float and gain strength. So one could absorb the other, causing some sort of a super low pressure system, and then kapoof, we have one of those super canes. I'm going to call it a super cane, but a very bad conditions.
I think you called them hyper canes before. Yeah,
they're going to have to name it something, because hurricane's just not going to do it. These are going to be primarily wind events, right? So, and eventually, just the way things are going, Pascal, here's something. These hurricanes, can you imagine a hurricane on every coast?
No.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a hurricane on every coast? We're getting close to reaching something just like that. Now, something just like that, where every single coastline is going to be a very dangerous place to be. We're getting close to that.
Well, that means that the sun, I guess that means the sun is just absolutely so unpredictable. They're releasing so many solar flares and plasma bursts and things that, and maybe it's bigger than the sun. Well, the sun's doing all this because something else is affecting it. If the binary system or there's other two big objects you talk about and that you say are not going to, that can't be hid forever. What's the timeline, Mike? Do you see this in the next 36 months? What's
Well, for the last 2 days, we've had heavy particulates settling into our atmosphere, messing up cellular communications. I wonder how many people have had their phone calls been dropping out, or cell signals have been affected, specifically on 5G in certain areas at high altitude above 2,200 feet. People are having issues, and they could have some more issues because there are these weird-looking belts forming around the sun now. almost like rings around the sun. They're forming around the sun, seen in a very specific light spectrum. And so they could very well cause magnetic disturbances and shoot off a few CMEs in several different locations. So,
Brock, find that China cloud. Mike, I don't know if you've seen that rainbow cloud in China that was unbelievable. I mean, here we're going to put a
spherical one. It was almost like a ring, a perfect ring up there above the cloud.
We'll put it back up on the screen here for everybody. We talked about this yesterday in yesterday's broadcast, but check this out, because what caused that? I mean, that doesn't look natural. That looks supernatural. But maybe there's a scientific explanation, or is this man created or pollution created, or is this the sign in the heavens? The Bible says in the last days we'll see great signs and fearful sights in the heavens. What is that? What is that, Mike?
Well, here's my 2 cents. I'm going to give you my
All
2
right, 2
cents on
cents,
that.
Mike.
Since God made the heavens and the earth, right? And since God is the one that He created the physics we now move and operate in and do this, that, and the other in, I believe that He has set other things in motion. He knows God can control and command His creation, right?
Right.
We can manipulate it. Satan can manipulate it, but God controls it.
Right.
And that, what you see right there, it almost looks like a spectrum, but the colors are off.
Yeah.
To be a spectrum. A rainbow is different, because clearly a rainbow is a spectrum. Those are, to have ice crystals up that high, concentrated in that area, mixed with sunlight hitting it just in the right way, it kind of takes timing to do that, right? I believe that sometimes the Lord will do things exactly like that, setting timing on things like that, to send a message. I don't believe those things are random. I just don't. I don't believe in random things. I'm spoiled with that because I've seen too many wild things. I've been witness to too many wild things that other people, they just don't want to deal with.
Well, it's over China. I mean, so
I don't believe in randomness.
Could it be that God was sending a message to China? This is a nation that doesn't believe in God. What if He's saying something to China? China, right? Of all places. China. And like I said before, that doesn't, a rainbow is actually part of it's a spectrum, right? A prism. So when you look at those lights, they're in a specific pattern. That pattern is broken. That's what that pattern is clearly broken. So it's not in that spectrum form or the prism form where you would see the light, the color lights lined up. That wasn't formed.
That looks like
I don't think that was formed by a prism, because if there was a prism, we would have a red. There'd be some kind of more. Yeah,
the colors are out of alignment, and plus they're overlapped. So, no doubt, I would say it's ice crystals and all that good stuff. But here's the thing, though: it showed up over China. Yeah. Right. It showed up just to have something show like that for somebody to take a picture. These things have to happen at very opportune times. They're just not going to happen at all times of the day. So that's why I don't believe in randomness. I believe that the Lord does things to get our attention. But if you're not thinking by way of faith, you're going to forget that God created the heavens and the earth. That God He controls, or He commands His creation. I think people will forget that. But people of faith, we should never forget that God commands His creation. Sometimes, personally, I believe that we give men too much credit on their machinery. And you know how a storm hits and somebody will say, well, it's that. Well, it's that. But okay, what about what the Lord wrote in the Bible when He said something about the tempest and the storm and the winds and the sea and the waves roaring? That's not, I think that sometimes we give the devil too much credit. And he didn't do it. He can manipulate things, yes. But even the weather weapons that they have, I know exactly what a few of them do, exactly. And it's not to cause a hurricane, right? They can seed one. They can cause hot temperatures, which can be seen on a Doppler. But all of that they can't do. That would take too much. Even with their holograms and everything else, some of that information out there on the net is just flat out inaccurate. It's just not accurate. Hologram is not fascinating technology either. It's simply technology. But things like that have to happen at a very specific time with very specific conditions. And it has to be at a specific, altitude, all these specifics. So I don't believe in, randomness. I believe that the Lord is sending a message. I believe he's doing something.
I believe it's definitely divine. It was supernatural, God directed, and for such a time as this. And when you read the Bible, like you said, Mike, to see the waves will be roaring. And then also in Luke 21, it does say there'll be great signs and fearful sights in the heavens. Now that doesn't look fearful to me, but that does look like a great sign. And then I asked myself, where was it at? Well, it was over China, not far from Beijing. What does that mean? Is God sending a message? Is it a message to China that you're not fully in control? You don't control me. I am God. There is a real God. Who knows? I mean, they're persecuting Christians over there. They're bulldozing their churches. They're throwing the Uyghurs into the gulags. I mean, I'm not just picking on China, because there's a human rights abuse going on all over the world, including the United States. Just look at the southern border and watch what's going on, the trafficking that's going on there. Little children. And all of the sex trafficking and all of the human trafficking and all of the fentanyl and the drugs and everything. There's no way that can go on at that magnitude. 2.5 million people, and the federal government not know what's going on, and somebody's getting paid. Somebody's getting paid everywhere. Check Hunter's laptop. Somebody's getting paid. Am I right? The big guy's got to get his 10%.
Well, we all know back in, 74, that the CIA and the FBI were working to get drugs into the country.
Yes, they were.
Because their argument was they can't cut drugs out. America would be in chaos. Everybody who's addicted to a drug would then start going to their neighbor's house. They terrorize everybody. So they can't they created a monster. They can't cut it off. But the border issue is very unfortunate for me to see, because we have power to do something about it. We have power to set order at the border, and we can't encourage crime. They know children die there. They know people are
and not just because they
drown.
It's not that children are just drowning in the water or getting abandoned.
Oh no, it's worse things happen.
They're being sold into the porn world. They're being sold.
That's a big trade point. Yeah. And in fact, that trade point was disrupted when that hurricane hit Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Just why I don't believe in randomness.
Right,
that storm in Puerto Rico, when it hit, tore down 2 trade places.
Shut things down.
Totally blew them. Yeah, it did.
God
because
answered somebody's prayer.
Even when it tore down, there were 2 ship crates there, right? Container crates full of people. 2 of them full of people. They were set free because that whole thing shifted, but they don't. It's almost like the populace. They'll print these stories in small places. I'll put it that way. But it doesn't really draw people's attention. It doesn't.
No.
But this assigning people, they caused that hurricane. No, I don't believe so. I don't believe in randomness. I know that they may have a potential to do certain things, but I just, I don't believe in randomness.
No, God's in control, and He does do things, and He does answer prayer. And there's so many times in warfare, God used, He would send fog to get George Washington through Valley Forge. He would sandstorms to help
get the
Israel
soldiers through mines. He did quite a bit.
How many times in World War II did he do things to help in the Battle of the Bulge and the things that happened in the beaches of Normandy? This goes on and on and on. So to think that God isn't in control, and actually God is in control, and we can go all the way back and look at the Bible. God sent a strong east wind. It said it blew all night and parted the Red Sea, and the children of Israel went across on dry land. He used the weather. He constantly uses these things. So I'm with you, Mike. It's not random. Nothing like that's by chance or random. It's directed by God. And you can either be on the right side of history or be on the wrong side of history. You can either be following God and have the hand of His blessing on you, or you can be in the curse. And this is why it's so important. I preach this all the time. People are scared to death. No reason to be. If you're a Christian, no reason to be afraid. If you truly believe that He's the God of the universe and that He controls your destiny, you have nothing to fear. Fear is a
None
lack
at all.
of faith. It just means you just really don't believe that God is really going to take care of you. You actually just don't believe the Bible is 100%.
That's exactly what that is.
Am I right, Mike?
That's right. That's right. And fear is a mind killer. It can just stop you right in your tracks because you don't. Every time I ever had fears, because I did not trust that the Lord would deliver me.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Right?
exactly
It's
what I'm
also
saying.
the fear of you don't know what's going to happen, so you're not entrusting your next step to the Lord. Well, the steps of a righteous man are ordered of the Lord. So if we sought his righteously, we don't have to worry about
That's right.
our next step because he will guide and direct us.
I am not afraid I'm not afraid of
Go ahead.
war. Personally, I'm not. I'm not afraid of economic meltdown. Personally, I'm not. It don't matter what happens. I mean, if I believe the Word, if I truly believe God, He will see me through no matter what it is. If I believe
He's
it.
got you.
But the
That's right,
problem
he's
is
got you.
people don't believe the Word. They believe Google over God. They believe propaganda over preaching. And Mike,
Yeah.
thank God there's 7,000 people here tonight who at least know that tonight they're hearing the truth and that truth will set them free. And that's why they're here tonight. And that's why we're here tonight to share the good news of that Jesus will help us overcome. Remember what he said? Don't be afraid of the world because I overcome the world.
That's
Okay?
right. That's right.
What are we going to talk about next
You
week,
sure do.
Mike? What are we going to talk about?
Pastor, it's up in the air. You know, there's so many things that could happen this weekend. I know there's some things. Did anybody hear about there was a plan this week, and it was kind of hinted at. Two groups in the USA were planning something. I believe also some groups in the Middle East were planning something. They tried it 2 weeks ago. It didn't work. But I believe that they're planning something. And what that is people are being emboldened to take matters into their own hands.
Uprisings.
That's what they're doing.
Do you
Yeah,
see, is
they
there
are.
plannings going on one way or the other?
Many are rebelling against governments, and I believe that they may try this. They may try that again. I do know, Pastor Paul, that people are becoming emboldened more and more. And as things continue to degrade, when the conditions actually touch the people, again, the Christians will see it. We're going to see it. But it won't necessarily affect us like it will everybody else.
Wow.
That's part of God's supernatural hand, right? Most people, they're not acquainted with how God can supernaturally do things. Well, they're about to be reintroduced to that. Because the Lord will take care of his people. He gave us that promise. And so he's not going to break his promise because he didn't break his promise going to the cross. He
Amen.
went all the way, and every single person that believes in Christ is bought with a price,
Amen.
a very high price, the highest price anybody can ever pay.
Amen.
I don't believe the Lord makes bad investments.
No.
I don't believe that. So
Amen.
there we are.
Amen, amen, amen. 100% amen. Mike, appreciate you being here again tonight. It's an honor to have you on the broadcast, and we look forward to next Thursday. I tell you, they're still talking about this webinar last weekend. I mean, you rocked the world, and a lot of stuff was revealed there. Heidi's interview was incredible, and you were amazing, and so was Steve Midanoon and everybody. It was really powerful, and keep up the good work, brother. Keep bringing the gospel to people.
Well, God bless you, Pastor Paul. It's always an honor. You're the hub of Christians. That's what you are. You're like an
I don't
aircraft
think so.
at the airport of Christians, the hub.
Am I the
That's
air
right.
traffic controller of a Christian?
There you go. There you go. Headquarters.
Okay, all right. Well, if that's so, you're the intelligence division, that's for sure. So we'll keep looking that way. God bless you, Mike.
God bless you, Pastor
Amen.
Paul.
Amen. The hub of Christianity. Well, maybe it is. Maybe you on this online church, maybe that's why you're here.